Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the podcast tonight. It is December 9th. This is podcast number 14. We are almost at our record number of podcasts, and it's not even the end of the 2020 yet. It's nice. It's nice. Hopefully, we don't have COVID again, and we can still keep going.
Again?
I'm hoping.
Jeez, man.
But tonight is a special cast. I've been working on this since last year during this time. We have with us Sam Jackson, also known as Lorlo. He's top laner for Dignitas. And he is right now currently Academy, but he has played in a few LCS games, a few LCS splits. So I've been talking to him, and the main reason why I wanted to get him on here because he is local to Illinois. He was a little bit before our time at IHSEA, so he didn't get a chance to participate. Had he been here at one year longer, out of school, he would have probably participated in something or at least heard about us. But he is here with us today. Thank you for being here, Lorlo.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Been long overdue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, we've been working on this right before COVID,
Yeah.
and then spring split started, and then right into summer, we weren't casting, and I was like, let me hit him up again now because we've had quite a few good guests on lately. So, and again, with me always, my second chair over there, down there underneath me today, Keith Kennedy from Glenwood. Condolences to your Overwatch team, sir.
I mean, I'm really happy we took top 8 still.
That is true.
All being
That is
said,
true.
I'm happy we took it, given we graduated 3 of our starting 6.
Yeah, that's the big thing with high school is that kids just leave so quickly. It's like, 4 years. I had you for 2 because you had no idea we had an esports team for the first 2 years. So, and you've only been around this is your third year, right?
This is year 3, and I picked up the 3 who graduated. I picked up 2 of them the first year and 1 of them second year, and then they just left. And I'm high and dry and trying to scramble for a team, but I'm still really happy with the result, and I'm really happy with my guys how we played. And we just got our merch in too, so I have to get all that out now too. So
I play a meat Moira. I'll step in.
Oh my god, that's the only champion they let me play. Hero, because I can't possibly turbo feed on it because it's Moira.
Yeah, you just right click. That's the same with me.
Awesome. So we just wanted to have you on here to talk, ask questions. So if you guys have questions in chat, I already see some comments and stuff out there. So feel free to ask questions. We're just going to talk to them about what it's like to be a professional League of Legends player. I mean, none of us know. None of us are in that position, and we're glad to have you on here to talk about it. So if you want to tell us about like the start of your story of how you made it and how that started and then go from there.
Yeah, I guess we'll just dive into it for me. So I'll go way back. So I started playing League about in 2010. So literally right after the game got released. It got released in 2009, if I am not mistaken. So pretty much right after it got released out of beta, I started playing. I actually started playing with my older brother. He's currently a pro in a different game called Smite. I don't know if you guys know that game at all.
Yeah,
Cool.
But we used to play League together a lot for about like 2 to 3 years. And I just mainly played games for fun. I never really had like aspirations to go pro or anything. Like I played like World of Warcraft, played a little bit of Smite with him, and I also just played League. And then when I was about like 13 to 14, that's like when season 3 of League came out. I got like Challenger, which is like the highest rank you can get in that game.
Just playing casually, just got Challenger, right?
Yeah, I didn't really take it seriously. I was just playing a one-trick champ. I was playing Nidalee top back then for fun. I was one-trick champ, and just like, yeah, it was just really fun to me, and I just enjoyed it a lot because that champ was so broken, especially back then. It just had so much like lane dominance and just it was like disgustingly OP. And it's I don't know. I didn't really like think too much of it. I was just like playing League, going to school, just hanging out with my brothers, and just enjoying it. And then if we jump forward a few years, I actually skip back a little bit too. When I was 14, I hit rank 1 on the leaderboard when Challenger. It was about
sweet.
In season 3. And then I actually quit the game. Funny story. I quit the game when I hit rank 1. I got bored. I'm like, I'm gonna go play Minecraft with my brothers. And then I actually quit the game and I just went to go play Minecraft. And
oh my god!
Not a bad choice.
That sounds like a teenage move. We've heard that stories from so many of our kids.
I played Minecraft with my younger brother actually, and we just played on this like PvP server, and it was fun. It was really fun. We just I don't know. It was like a really small knit community of like 20 or 30 people. And a funny story with the Minecraft server actually. they thought I was hacking on the server because I like use this like it was an exploit, I guess. There's like people like usually use a sword to kill people, but I use an axe because it like instantly broke people's armor, and then I would just be like one-shotting everyone on the server with PvP, and they thought I was like cheating and hacking. It
Oh my
was
God,
kind of
that's great.
ridiculous. But then I came back to League after like a month or two or so, just trolling around Minecraft. I was like 15, 16 back by then. And then I joined an amateur team, and Madden Cloud, he's a former pro. I don't know if you guys heard his name before, but he used to play for a team called Vulcan. It was like season 3 of LCS. And Xmithy was on that team. You probably heard Xmithy's name.
Yeah.
A few other people. And he asked me because he was trying to get back into pro again after playing with Vulcan and going to Worlds. And then I played on his amateur team, and we made a team called Storm. And then that was like my taste into, I guess, competitive League of Legends. And I started taking it a bit more serious. I'm like, oh, maybe this is something I actually can aspire to be, or something I can aspire to do, because I was playing really well in the scrims and like the tournament games as well in the amateur scene. And then from Storm, I went to CLG Black. That was my first like real team I got on, and it was like the Challenger League. I was like 16 for just like my age. I was 16 by then, and then we were doing really well actually in scrims. It was me, Stixay, Scara. Probably know Scara.
Wow.
I played with Thinkard. He was actually the coach of Dig last year.
Wow.
Team I'm on right now, and then I played with iKenny, who's a support. But there was a competitive ruling on Stixay back then, where he was like, there's a toxic behavior check of him. So we were practicing with him all the way up until like the challenger bracket, and then he was unable to play with us. And he was like, we were like throwing all our resources, all our strategy into him, and he was performing super well in scrims.
Oh my
And we
God.
also got to scrim versus like the CLG main team back then, and that was the split. They actually won LCS, so we got like super good practice playing versus them, and we were actually playing really well, and we were gonna like do super good in challenger, and then we had to completely switch our AD, like scrap a lot of things, and it just really sucked. And we ended up losing. We got like 5th in like the challenger bracket, and it like was just a really like, bad situation. And then after that, I was like, I had thoughts of like, am I really gonna keep playing just competitively League? Because I'm like, I placed 5th out of like I think it was 7 teams at the time in the challenger bracket, and I just had like thoughts of just not wanting to play anymore. And then like 2 weeks after that, I get a call from Steve, Liquid 112, and he's like, we want you to start for Team Liquid for the next LCS year. And I'm just like, for Academy or for Challenger, I asked him like 3 times, like, are you serious? Is this for LCS? Like, I was just like, because we did so bad in Challenger, I was like, there's no way this guy wants me for LCS. And he's like, yeah, we want you for LCS. And I'm like, I don't know. I just remember like running around my house, just like telling all my brothers and like my family, like, and I had like a few friends over the time. It was like, I don't know, it was absolutely crazy. Just
Hey, that's justified to run around the house for that.
Yeah.
I was just
That's
like,
justified.
there's no way this is actually happening to me. And then actually, right after that, I flew out and started playing LCS when I was 17 with TL, and then basically since 2016 of that, like that December of 2015, 2016 to now, I've been playing professionally, and
That's
I've loved it
awesome.
ever since. Yeah.
So what was the kind of jump from LCS, from Academy Challenger to LCS? Was it a huge difference? Do you feel different? I know the stage feels different, but in game, did you feel a lot of pressure for that?
Yeah, especially when I first started playing, because the meta back then was the game was
Juggernaut?
really weird. It was 2v1 meta. I don't know if you guys remember 2v1 meta in League, where like there was lane swaps, and
Oh
then it was just
God, the
like a
lane
lot of
swap meta.
PvE and just a lot of like experience and knowledge that you had to like learn and just like study. Because if you like hit one creep and mess the lane swap up, you kind of just like lose 60 CS as a top laner and like ruin your entire game.
I mean, top's a really sad life in general.
Yeah, top in general as well, like out of all roles is a lot more experience based. So getting thrown into the mix versus like I remember playing versus like Impact, where he just like comes off a Worlds win. That guy's got like 5 or 6 years of experience under his belt. I'm like just getting thrown in playing versus him. And LCS is just like, it was a lot to take in, especially for me. Just like going from like my one split in Challenger from CLG Black, where we placed 5th, to just getting thrown into LCS. But I think I did pretty well overall. It was just a lot of learning I had to do. I remember just having like so many like Google Docs and just sheets of like notes of just watching like countless hours of VODs, and I still go back to like my doc today, like on just like Gmail. I have like so many like notes, just VODs and VODs and VODs of just like 2v1 and just understanding. A lot of it's like irrelevant now because
Oh yeah.
the whole game just swapped, but the amount of knowledge for like the 2v1s and just understanding that was so much different to this meta. So it was just a lot of information.
I'm assuming it was kind of frustrating to have to jump into that, and then I think was like season 7 hit, and that's just out the window entirely, and you had to do a whole new thing.
Yeah, that's the thing with League in general too, especially why it's so hard for a lot of League players, I think, to stay motivated or to stay pro. I think it depends on your approach in general because some pros like the change and like adapting, while others just like they're good at one meta, good at one thing. They're like really excelling in it, and they just get really frustrated. Like, I have to do this again. I have to learn a lot of new things. Like, I was just performing super well in this meta. Why do I have to adapt to something else? Of course, a lot of the fundamentals within League do say the same, but it does take a lot of effort compared to, like, I guess, a shooter game like CSGO or something, where the fundamentals of that game kind of stick to the core values of the game way more so.
I mean, speaking as a CS player, like the meta was super stale for 6 years, and then someone went, "Hey, this gun's kind of good," and they played it for 6 months, then it got nerfed, and it's back to the same meta. And so it was really interesting for me trying to balance playing both of them because the league has this constant change, and preseason always hits right when my teams are starting to gel for the year, and then preseason hits, and I'm like, okay, you get to learn all of this again. And meanwhile, my Valorant guys are just like, okay, we still shoot, cool. And so it's just this big change, trying to look at the rapid shift and how much players have to know and learn as they go. Because League, people who are new to the game get really scared by just the sheer quantity of things you have to know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might complain too, like especially in the pro scene. Like if you look at golf or football, like minor tweaks happen in those major sports. Whereas you look at something in most esports and League in particular, where like every year they're like whole scale changing the game in some way, you know, whether it's, you know, jungle camps or plants or the whole new item rework that everyone's still like, I'm testing. It's like 2 months in and everyone's still testing because they really don't know what is the best meta, and Riot doesn't know either, and they're still tweaking that stuff too. So I think it's really cool to have to relearn it, and that kind of keeps people coming in. But in the professional scene, it's like, I just practiced for, you know, 9-10 months on this meta, on this thing, and, you know, luckily like the world shift where they lock in that patch, like, you know, and you're just stuck on that, where everyone else is still getting minor changes. You know, they definitely like get stuck on that patch, and, you know, it's good. And then, like you said, that new preseason come out, and then, you know, it's all up for grabs. Who knows what's going to be, you know, OP, and we might have, you know, changes in teams, and, you know, everyone always says spring split doesn't matter, and, you know, I think it's gonna pop up again. Spring split doesn't matter because they're still gonna be trying to figure out, you know, what works.
I mean, as related to that, how fast do professionals start doing like scrims on like when preseason hits? How fast to start scrimming? Do they let it settle for a bit, or they just go day 2? Okay, let's go scrim.
It depends on the team. I think prior years, like if I go back to like 2017, 2018, before like pre-COVID era, it's weird to even say that now, but like when you could actually travel internationally with like your team and go to like Korea and do like boot camps and stuff, I think that was more common. I think players right now are doing individual boot camps where like they fly themselves out to Korea and there's like boot camp in a hotel or something and just play a league for like 3 weeks straight. But before it was like you bring your whole team, you like do team bonding things, like go out, like really just like gel before the start of the season, and that was way more common before all this actually did happen. But now I guess it's like more mellow. I think for a lot of teams, I think there's like these in-houses that are going on. People are doing solo queue, but like everyone's kind of scheduled to start scrims about like in like 3 weeks or so. I think there's some teams probably doing things earlier. A lot of tryouts are still going on for some teams, and it's like finalizing rosters, so it's hard to even start your scrims if your team's not even fully together. But yeah, like prior to COVID, a lot of practice that did happen like during like the December time zone that I had chance to like experience as well was you go to like Korea, because I've been to Korea 2 times myself before season, and yeah, a lot of it was to just practice right before the season, just like gel with your new teammates, and a lot of success comes from that as well.
And something a lot of our students are actually wondering, and probably related to this, is when you talk about tryouts, what's the tryout process like for a professional team, and how does someone even get to tryouts? I mean, being rank 1 challenger wouldn't hurt, but is that the only requirement?
Yeah, a lot of it is just like for me personally, a lot of it is just like grinding high on the solo queue ladder is like should be I think your main goal. Doing your best to impress like current pro players and just like trying to even just add them on the game and just like talk to them and just see what it's like to go pro, see what like their atmosphere is like, see what their experience are like, see what their team is like, and then maybe you can get like an amateur shot or even an academy spot or try out through them. Like even like literally just like word of mouth. Um, but there's like things like the TSM have like a combine they put together where like bring a bunch of like amateur players and they like do some trials with that. I know there was a collegiate school that did that as well. I forget the name. I think it was Maryville.
Maryville. Yep. Yeah,
Maryville
they're one of the
combine,
big
and
ones.
then Wesleyan's doing a combine soon as well.
You mean
Yeah,
Golden
there's-
Guardians Junior is what you mean to say?
And then there's also I think 100 Thieves did something. I think there's just being on the lookout, just like following all the teams if you're really interested. Obviously, the most important thing I think people will look at is just being really active in solo queue and just really because like for me, I had before I went pro, I had 4 or 5 counts, like top 20, top 50 in solo queue, and just really spam the game and really wanted to do it. So, like first off, like really like pushing for it, and I think things will come slowly if you just like start networking and branching out to other players.
Yeah, talking back to like the Korean boot camp and the status of like NA solo queue, like how do you feel about everyone this year this summer was complaining about NA solo queue and the top of the ladder, it's just garbage and it's full of a bunch of memes and one tricks.
We're gonna open this can of worms now, Todd.
Yeah, well, I mean, being top ranked on the ladder, he sits in queues for 30 minutes nowadays and gets to play like 1 or 2 games if you're playing on your main account. Do you find that it's hard to play that way, or like, is there better ways for NA to improve at that? I mean, just your opinion in general.
Yeah, I think overall a lot of it is just how you go into like practicing with solo queue too, because I think a lot of the time pro players in general or just players in general just like queue up in natural and just muscle memory, just like I want to play a game of League and just like go into it, not really thinking like critically thinking of like what you actually want to improve on. But regardless of like the level of skill within NA or like Korean solo queue, there's always positives you can get from the game. If it's like a champion you want to work on, if it's a thing you want to improve on in the game, and just really being aware and cognitive of like what you want to get out of that single game is I think really important regardless of like where you're practicing and what you're doing. But there's also things that do help within that aspect, like the in-house is going on. You can just do like scrims, like pickup games. Just like playing on Smurf accounts is like not like a bad approach. You always can get value out of just like playing the game more if you have the right approach to it.
And you get content too.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a streamer as well, you do your
Yeah.
content. Just playing.
Yeah, and with those Smurf accounts, like you said, it's going in with a purpose, and we try to teach our kids that now. Like a lot, somebody asked, like, how do you just casually get Challenger? And it's not. He didn't casually get it. He was learning as he was going and going in with purpose and thinking about what he was doing, why he lost that matchup, and why he did that. It wasn't casual. He maybe not have been trying as hard as he could have been, but it's never casual if you want to be at the top at something. You kind of have to be cognizant and always thinking and reflecting about what you're doing about that. And so, thinking about like playing on a Smurf, yeah, you're playing on a Smurf, you might not be playing as the top tier. But again, going in with a purpose, maybe, somebody asked, how do you go learning a new champ or learning a new champ for that lane? Like what would you have suggestions for that?
Yeah, for me in general, like in terms of like learning new champs, like if you're just starting League, yeah, go for it. If you're starting League, just playing champs that you first enjoy, I think is the biggest way to have an easier way to improve on a champion, because you're going to want to put more effort into actually learning how to get good on that champion. Like if you pick a champion and you're not really enjoying it, you're not going to put a lot of effort, and that just goes for a lot of things. But just in general, I would say watching a lot of top streamers, just watching VODs of the game. Like you literally just type in YouTube like Korean VODs of X champion of matchups and just like watching those and just like skimming through like how they play like the first 5 minutes of the lane, like what they're building. Make sure it's the most current patch and like look at something super old, especially nowadays with all the changes of the items. But yeah, watching streamers, watching old games, oldish, newish games, and just making sure that you're on top of just like combos and stuff. And there's a lot of content out there for League nowadays, especially on like different champions. If you just Google a lot of things, you could find multitudes of things.
Yeah, watching, having fun watching a lot of these in-houses because casters are picking them up. Players are streaming on their own for content, and I think it's really awesome to see because they're trying out new things, and they're not playing with their regular team, so it's not so serious with what they're doing. So I think it's really cool to watch some of this chemistry come up because most of them aren't playing with scattered teams and just picking up players from wherever. I think that's definitely a good opportunity to play against high-ranked players, but then to possibly be able to experiment and try something.
Yeah, because League in general, in terms of like all games are like this, but League is a lot of just like experience and knowledge game. I think because there's so many different characters and champions and a lot of item combinations and matchups, and you just have to like be able to siphon all the information and really just soak it all in. Especially if there's like a few champs you do want to play or roles that you do want to play, you have to do like a lot of work. It's just not gonna just come naturally for a lot of people.
Yeah, my suggestion always if people say, "Oh, that this is my main," and I'm like, "Well, have you played 100 games as that champion in a row, like, and constantly practice that?" Like, before Sion was meta, I was Sion top like every game. Like literally right before, I was like, "Yeah, I love playing Sion top," and then he became meta and he got nerfed all the way down. And I'm like, "Okay, well now he's not so much fun." And for a while, I was playing Fiddlestick support, and although it never really hit meta, it did pop up in the pro scene during that season. I was playing that and. Like last season, I got Hearthstone gold, and I'm like, I just need to get out of gold as support, and it's so hard. And so I was like, that's it. I'm just going Galio because I can just initiate every time, and I literally spam Galio like 70 games and made it back to plat from like gold 3. I'm like, all right, but it literally takes that many games to practice and see. And just like look at it and be like, oh, hey, I just missed my stun or I just missed my taunt. Like, how could I play that better? When do I flash? And just like looking back at it and trying to figure out, don't just say, let's go next. Actually go back and look at that point where you thought you might have lost the game.
And I'm not allowed to speak about one tricking, am I? Because, Todd, my champ pool of, I played 200 selling games of Warwick Jungle last season.
I was a one trick too. One trick is not bad.
And now he's dead.
Yeah. But again, it's still about just if you're not at that top tier, one tricking is fine. Like until you hit diamond, I think one tricking is perfectly acceptable to get there because the diamond is just a complete different game. Like the one season I actually tried hard to get into diamond. I played a couple games and duoed with someone to get into the higher queue. With like high plat players, low diamond. And I realized I was like, I'm not ready for this yet because this is a different level of play. Everything is so fast and everything is so moving where, as support back then, it was just like, oh, just walk back to lane. Now it's like, no, you walk back to mid first, then cut through the river and ward and, get this deep ward in here. And it's like, figuring out that game at that point in my life, I was not there yet. And I'm like, okay, I'm a plat player for now. I don't have time to invest into getting anything higher yet. So. But
yeah, I think one tricking is definitely fine. It just depends on obviously your goals. Like if you're just playing League just to like improve and climb, I think one trick is more than fine. If your aspirations are to go pro, then I think eventually you should branch into something else. But like for me too, like I one tricked when I started playing the game, and when I'm liking a champ or like what I'm most enjoying like League in general is like I'm playing one champion like a lot and just like really trying to like improve that aspect of that one character. That's like when I fully enjoy League the most, I would say, when I'm really just like honing a craft on just one champion and really trying to be the best on like if not one champion, at least a few.
Yeah, and I think definitely it's also that also learning the matchups because every game is different. Like you said, League has so many different characters. Like every you play 12 games, it could be 12 different matchups, even though you're the same character. So, and you have to play those differently every way, and trying to figure out how to win that lane, or if it's going to not be top focused. Although that has been the fun thing to watch is when people go Fiora top and get that pentakill at 40 minutes because no one can kill them. But it's that idea of just learning all the matchups and every game again go in with a purpose and try to learn something from it of what you're going to. And my biggest thing is a lot of students don't realize that learning what your win conditions are as a team I think is really important. Did you have that knowledge in you when you first started playing? Like, did you look at a comp and be like, okay guys, this is how we win, or did you just go and try to win lane through top?
Yeah, absolutely not. I actually had like no like team game knowledge at all. That's like especially if you're coming, that's like a big thing coming out of solo queue too, because most of the time like all the young players and like solo queue players, they're just thinking about how to like be the best for themselves, and that's like all solo queue is anyways, right? Like how you can play your own game, improve like your own craft, and just really excel in like either like a one-on-one situation, at least for me from top, or like just like excel in whatever role you actually are in. But yeah, a lot of like the team aspect things do take a lot of time to learn, especially like not being able to like soak in all the resources, like taking a back seat and it's like a certain situation, not being like the star of the game, and just like things like that do take a lot of time to understand, especially when like for a role like mine, especially top has so many different aspects and roles and like things that you do fit for the team. Like one game you become like all the funneling of the gold, and the next game you become the guy that has like 20 gold to his name. So it really does. It's just like, I don't know. There's a lot of different just aspects and understanding you do take, and that's why I think top in general is a role a lot about experience, and the more experience you have, the easier the role gets to play.
Yeah, and I think that's hopefully is our goal as an organization is to give kids some of that team knowledge going in, so they're not in that solo queue meta, and they kind of think about that going in. Because like you said, you were all, how do I win the game, and not let's look at the team as a whole and design a comp around it and learn those win conditions. Because I think that's something that, you know, as you're playing with casually with friends, you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna play my favorite champion and then go in that and then win the game and dominate, and then not look at what actually were the win conditions. So. Yeah, that's awesome to hear that even as being number one ranked, that wasn't really like in your head at that stage. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a lot of the like in terms of like looking like farther into just how teams are ran, people don't really understand what it takes to actually be a pro. They think, at least for me, like when I first started like wanting to be a pro, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be playing League like 12 hours a day. But there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot more just like relationship things, like bonding with your teammates, really understanding them, really understanding like their weaks and just strengths as well. And there's a lot of just like things you have to realize it's just not about you. You have to like kind of humble yourself and just really take a back seat when it's like your time to take a back seat and just understand what it takes to just like fully succeed. Just looking past yourself, I guess, is the best way to put it.
yeah, awesome. I have one question that I don't know the answer to, and I don't know if you know the answer to, is what is team communication like when you guys are losing? I know League can be very one-sided from the beginning, and you can kind of see like maybe we're gonna lose. But what is your communication? How do you guys overcome a bad start to a game? Because one thing that we notice in our high schoolers is that as soon as they start losing, or as soon as they feel that they're not going to win or don't have a chance to win, it gets really quiet. Everyone just sits there and they're kind of do their thing, trying to catch back up. But how do you guys do it at the pro scene? Like, how do you end up overcoming that bad start?
Yeah, I think first step is just identifying the strengths and weaknesses of both comps and really making that clear. Say you're versing, say you're a late game comp, you're versing like an early game comp, and you guys are falling behind early game because it's just how it's supposed to be played, and just really understanding that, just try to like bleed less and just like not give any more resources than you need to, and just really like sticking to that, because if you're getting pressured, it's just like it's easy to continually get pressured and not really be self-aware of that. But also just like another thing is just looking from the winning perspective and just trying to catch mistakes from the winning perspective, just like playing the game from their perspective, almost like what their plan is, and just always think about what the enemy's plan is, because when you're behind, you don't have many opportunities to make plans yourself. The best plan is usually thinking about the enemy's plan, and if it's like to trap a certain situation in the game, like trap a bush, set up like a TP play if they're like setting up a siege or something, maybe rushing objective when they're like on a back timer, just like things like that where you catch them off guard, or just like using, say like one lane is winning, like say like bot's winning really hard, top is getting like completely blown out of the water, like 0-6 or something, they get completely like just smash ganked completely, just like sacking that entire lane, just funneling one side of the map and really just pressuring and just understanding that this is the win condition. It does suck for the guy that's 0-6, but just do your best to do your role, regardless. Say if you're like a Malphite or something in the game, just like your role, even if you're 0-6, you're going to be pressing R. If you're 6-0, like your role is still the same. Of course, you're not going to be giving much to the team besides your one ability, but a lot of champs and things and interactions do happen in League, even if you're not the person that's really strong in the game. You can still like contribute a lot, and like with communication, with just how your champion interacts, even if you don't have a lot of gold or if you got camped a lot, but just finding those different meshes with pretty much every single game and situation. And that's why League is just such a experience-based game, because every game is different. Pretty much every meta is different as well. So it's hard to fully like dress like what it really takes. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who always holds teams hostage, like because I usually play.
Like
I usually play tanks, and tanks really come online like late game, like old Scion meta. Like once you got to 30 minutes, they just couldn't kill you ever, and so you're like, guys, don't worry, we got this. I can ult every 30 seconds as Scion. Like I can start the team fight with the ult, and then ult to clear everything out. Like, and we ended up winning games, and people are like, oh wow, that was good, and whether it was because of me or people just didn't click, but. I think that's important. So, one thing I never thought about is like, yeah, definitely. Like I didn't realize until I started, messing around in jungle, trying to learn some other positions. And it was like, oh, where's the jungler at? I didn't realize how much pros keep track of where the other jungler is. And I think this season in particular, like casters were very cognizant about calling out like, oh, we know he's here. Would they know he's here? And, and that's something that goes on. And I mean, I started to realize that when I, started jungling a couple years ago, just to mess around with it. And I was, saying when you're behind again, yeah, thinking about what they're going to do and try to counter that move. Cause you should know, cause you've been in that position before, what they're going to try to do, because you should know their comp and what their win conditions are. So I think that's a really good way
to... Playing jungle lends yourself to really get targeted by both you and the enemy team, where it is your fault, and it is always your fault. He died solo in lane at 3 minutes, it's your fault. Why didn't you gank immediately? And getting used to that and going, okay, he's just stupid, and then moving on was really nice. But with a team setting, I've really had to teach my junglers, like, it's not solo queue, guys. You can talk to your teammates.
Yeah.
And say, hey, maybe back up a little bit. And getting junglers to understand that really as a jungler you control a lot of the pace of the early game has been really hard. Because they have to understand, like, hey, you the one who going for all the objectives, please actually tell someone.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like jungle, in terms of League, is like the groundwork of everything. Like it's like the baseline of basically running the team. Like I view like junglers are like basically the shot callers of the first 10 minutes of every League game. They should be like dictating how basically every lane plays. Of course, like if you're outperforming someone like individually, like say for top or mid or even bot, you're gonna get leads without like jungle's impact. But wherever the jungle's pathing, wherever the enemy jungle's pathing, it's kind of like dictating the level of like aggression you can put in the lane. Obviously, the better you get at League, and the more aggression you can put in, like knowing like the little holes of if the jungler's even pathing up to you, that you can still play aggressive if they have like no CC, things like that, or if you like can actually counter, win 2v2. But just in general, like jungle is probably the most important early game role in League, and I think it always will be, because it dictates basically everything that early game has to offer.
Sure.
I really miss the final meta, because as a person playing an aggressive jungler, I just take 2 camps and he's behind the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It was like the easiest thing, just to outplay him by just forcing him to be stuck there going, well, I have 3 camps missing, that's my game. So I missed that meta. But like understanding reads on routes is really hard at a certain point, because there's so many new champs coming into the jungle who can play funky like clears, or like seeing all those posts online of the just insanely fast fiddlesticks clears when he relaunched.
Oh yeah, like he like pulled the red raptors and like AoE'd both camps at once or whatever, and same with blue and wolves.
And he'd be finished with camp like a minute and a half before, and I'm just sitting there at level 2 like, oh god, what next?
there's like a Shaco clear where you can get like level 3 at like a minute 50 or something too, or some crazy thing with boxes. But yeah, that's the thing with League too. That's like even with like the new patch recently, there's so many changes to the game. So that's like for like pros, you have to completely stay on top of it, because like even the HP change of the jungle is going to completely switch basically everything your muscle memory knew like from a year ago, and just have to relearn a lot of different routes, or maybe not relearn, but like adjust, because you don't get the same amount of XP or this amount of gold, you're missing an item or things like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. One of the things that we always talk about here with the IHSEA is just the fact that when we're talking to people outside of the esports world that just don't know, we're always talking about how our kids are the kids who don't participate in any other activity at school. They don't play sports. Not all of them, but most of them don't play sports. They're not a part of clubs. When you were in high school, were you like one of those kids that didn't do much in high school? You kind of just went to classes and then play games, went right home and played games, or
Yeah, basically that was me for sure. Like, honestly, if something like this existed when I was in high school, it would have been, I think, something I definitely would have done. But yeah, me, I was just like trying to get out of high school as fast as I could and just play games, like go back home. Because if it wasn't League, I was playing basically every game from like World of Warcraft, like Diablo 3, even Diablo 2, Minecraft, like I talked about. I don't know, just pretty much any game. Bloodline Champions, I don't know, so many MMOs. Like I was always been like a gamer at heart since. I also played a bunch of card games, like Magic the Gathering, just basically any nerdy thing you think about.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I played a bit of it, but yeah, that's me.
I could never get into any card game. I didn't get into Magic until I played like Xbox version, and then I still never got into actual Magic because I just couldn't spend time and money buying cards, and that's why I'm like I love Runeterra because it's like I literally can just grind out everything and play whatever, and like the digital version of cards where you can grind out stuff. Like I played Hearthstone when it first launched for a while. But yeah, no, I definitely like physical cards. There are very few games I can get into. Also, I hate building decks. Like someone give me a deck and I'll play it and know how to play it. But I hate
deck builder. I just copy decks.
Yeah,
I'm the king of copying. I'm not innovative for decks.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that's the whole idea behind the IHSEA is to get these kids who aren't involved in anything. And like I was telling you offline before we started. That our first League of Legends club, we had 100 members show up, and it was a big school, school 3,000, but still for 300 or 100 kids for just League of Legends. This wasn't CS, this wasn't any other game, and that was in its heyday about 5-6 years ago. But even still, that's a big amount. And what we're seeing in high schools right now is anywhere between 5 to 20% of their school, depending on the size. Like some schools are smaller, but they have more contingent of kids who game, and we're getting kids to show out. I think right now we're sitting around just about 70 schools in the state right now that are participating in esports. How many teams do we have for Valorant, Keith? Is like 30 something?
We have 36 Valorant teams.
Yeah, 36 Valorant teams.
And I have one coach who I'm not going to name who's trying to add like 16 subs to his roster because he seems to have like 10 teams backed up behind him.
No, that's awesome though. Honestly, I'm glad that like gaming in general is becoming like slowly more and more mainstream. I hope it keeps like going that way because there's so much reach like within like League and just basically everything. I just hope it keeps growing because I remember like when I was growing up, at least like through high school or like middle school, like it was just all sports mainly. Talk about like before like the Fortnite thing with Ninja and stuff like that. Like there was not that much like mainstream things.
Yeah, as much as we don't like Fortnite, it did really mainstream competitive gaming.
Yeah, for sure. Fortnite definitely did help, especially a lot of the people that didn't have anything, like didn't have any knowledge about any games. I think they made them more interested in it and like even just like looked up things, just like read articles and things like that. And slowly people are just becoming more known to it, which is hopefully in like 10 years, it's something that's like way more appreciated. I think it's almost at that stage. I just hope it like fully gets to that level of like a real like appreciated sport. So.
Yeah, I think COVID kind of helped with that a little bit because there was no real sports going on. So people were watching people play 2K and other things just for fun because there was nothing else going on. And, LCS got started before like any professional sport got started. And so it kind of helped like, hey, we got nothing else to show. Let's show LCS or Overwatch because we don't have football or, basketball or anything to show. So I think, it kind of helped us as a esports community to get more recognition out there. And I think as organizations keep growing bigger and bigger, I think it helps too because the ecosystem around esports, yeah, you're a professional player, but how many people at the DIG organization actually deal with you on a day-to-day basis? I mean, would you, like besides like the people in your house and people who help support you, like DIG is a big...
like management. Yeah. It's like how many management? Yeah, there's off the top of my head, there's probably like at least like 6 or 7 like people within like the league section. But there's like throughout all of DIG, there's like multitude of people. There's probably like 40 to 100 depending on like what. So there's like, because DIG is an insanely big brand. Like there's like CSGO, Valorant. There's just so much DIG has in terms of like there's Rocket League. There's just so many outlets. There's like the female CSGO team. There's just so many people that have to like overlook a lot of things too. So Yeah, I hope the ecosystem does keep growing in that sense.
Yeah, we're trying to showcase like, hey, yeah, you want to go do physical therapy? Well, guess what? You can do physical therapy in the esports environment. Those people need physical therapy for things and injuries, and you can go and be a lawyer and do esports law and work for esports companies or gaming companies and still be involved in that ecosystem. You don't have to be like, oh, I have to go get a real career and be a doctor or a lawyer. You can do those things in the esports world, although they're small and not as many positions. But if that's your goal and that's what you want to do, you'll be one of the people that people look for because that's your passion.
Yeah, I think in terms of like physical therapy and too, like I think overall like injuries are not talked about within like esports a lot too. I think there's like a low amount of injuries talked about because at least for me personally, about like 2 to 3 years ago, I suffered with pretty bad like wrist injuries. I don't know if it was like diagnosed as carpal tunnel, but I don't think it fully was carpal tunnel. I think it was a lot of just overuse injury. But I think there's a lot of players within the scene that don't like attend to like physical therapy or like fully take care of themselves. And hopefully in the future, there's more of that understanding of like what it takes to really just be, besides being like a good player, a good athlete, like just being like a good human, just really taking care of yourself to like the utmost just aspects of life, because there's so much that goes into just like being a pro player rather than just like playing the game at like a lot of hours. Just like really taking care of yourself on a daily basis is super important. Just like avoid injuries, like really just being active and things like that. I really vouch for. So
I mean, I know that I'm probably not doing the best for myself, but I don't stop myself because I play a lot of shooters and I'm all wrist aim, and I'm good, but it's not good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll catch up to you. Honestly,
I've seen my dad go through carpal tunnel surgery on both his wrists actually, and I don't want any part of that. Holy crap!
what's
Like,
it bad for him? I'm actually curious too.
So he's a programmer. So fun fact: these two fingers don't go through the spot in the wrist; they go through your elbow. Is the nearest place they can get to him. So he has this like giant scar on his elbow, and essentially he had to get both wrists done the same summer because he had to get back to work. So he got his left wrist done, and then drove himself home from the hospital. And then 6 weeks later, got his right wrist done and did the same thing. And he lost all of his grip strength. If he overworks it, he loses all his grip strength again. He's got it back now, but if he overworks a little bit, he loses almost all of his grip strength. If he torques his arm the wrong way, his wrist goes entirely numb. And a couple weeks after the surgery, he lost feeling in all of his fingertips for quite a while until he recovered. And he was just laid up there, just arm extended on the couch, just sitting there for like the next 3 weeks, trying to recover.
Wow.
It's not fun.
I could not imagine if I didn't have my hands, because I'm always on the computer, always playing something. If I didn't have my wrists, I'd just be so bored. If I just sit there, I'd just be like, honestly, I don't know what I'd do with myself.
Oh yeah, I would be so insanely bored.
I had no idea what I'd do with myself.
He sat there and watched daytime television. He had to slog through daytime television for 6 weeks
before like streaming. Oh god.
Yeah, this was probably 2012ish.
So Netflix.
But I love the fact that like, he drove himself home from the hospital.
Yeah, that's
with
crazy.
With his other wrist being messed up still.
Dang.
Your dad's a trooper.
Yeah, so it's not fun, and I'm going towards it. I don't wanna, but I'm going towards it.
Someone was asking in chat, besides obviously being ranked 1 challenger, what would you suggest for kids or students or even college kids if they want to get noticed? We talked about in-houses a little bit, but what else? Like, do you think it's better if they stream and be on social media, or is just be the best player in the game? Like, what would be your big suggestion if they're trying to go pro?
Yeah, I think streaming is a new approach that I wasn't. Streaming was kind of popular, like in terms of like for like my era, I guess, or gen. But I think now it's a good way to get noticed too. Like if you have a unique trait, even if you're just trying to become a pro, I think building a good following is something that a lot of orgs will grab onto, especially if you're like getting pretty popular. They'll probably want to try you out at least, because a lot of orgs do look at like your brand, regardless of how you are as a player. So just making yourself just sellable, I guess, in a way, and just people like likable as well, and just understanding that is important regardless of just playing as well. But I think like my outlook, I think, is just really improving yourself as a player should still be your main priority as well. Whatever that takes in terms of like reaching out to people, just climbing the ladder. I know there's this just joining amateur teams too. Just like even pick up teams with your friends and just like really trying to make your network more known. Because there's the LCS Proving Grounds that's coming up too. They're changing this system, so even if you're an amateur team, you have a chance to just even strive for that and have a shot at LCS. So there's a lot of just like things you can do, but I think your main priority should just be improving yourself in the game, because that's going to give you the most benefit when you actually have to. Because the biggest thing overall, there's going to be a point where you have to actually prove yourself. If it's with an academy team, with an LCS draw, with even an amateur team, or even just in solo queue, there's going to be a point where you want to be able to play at a consistent level and really prove yourself on a daily basis, and not only yourself, but to the people that you're playing with, because those are the people that you could end up potentially playing with in the future. And realizing that when you're in solo queue, just doing your best to create good relationships with those people, especially if you're climbing pretty high up, because those people that you're playing with on a daily basis in solo queue, you might end up playing with on like an amateur team, an academy team, and just like treating them like pretty well, obviously, because they could be your teammate in the future, and having that mindset is really important too.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Like, you never know who you're going to play with. It was funny. I just, not this previous Clash, but the one before it, like some of my old former students had asked me like, hey, you want to play Clash with us? I think they're like in college now, or they're like 20 something. I was like one of my first teams. And like, hey, you want to play Clash with us? And I was like, no, I don't really have time for Clash, because I can't play Clash. Sorry guys, next time maybe let me know ahead of time, because I have 2 little kids, so I never know what's going to happen if they're still awake. And so I said, no, I'm not play Clash. I queued up for Flex Game, and lo and behold, they are my teammates, like all 3 of them. I'm like, about that, sorry, And so, but
I mean, the awkward one is we ran actually through this last Overwatch game and this week, we ran into opposing teams in quick play right before the match. We ran into Oswego 10 minutes before their match. We lost to them in the quick play. We won the match. And then we ran into Springfield this week, right before our match in quick play. We unfortunately lost our match, but it was still really awkward. Like, oh, hey, I recognize you.
As you guys trying to warm up and everything. And yeah, and people don't realize, I mean, I hate that they got rid of the clan tags now in League. I'm so upset, because it was really a way to identify yourself with the school. Like, most of our schools had clan tags, and so you get in, you'd be like, oh, you see HS after, like, wait, I do know you. I played you last week in our match, or you dumpstered us the first week, and now we're playing against each other. And you really do, see people that you recognize. And I really, as much as I hate Riot for League and making it so you can't change your name without paying, I kind of like it, because then people stick with names more often than other free games. They're like, hey, let me just do a name swap real quick, because it really doesn't matter. And I think it's like good to
every Valorant player in the league currently.
Yeah.
Stop changing your names. I don't want to have to keep getting DMs from your coach. Oh yeah, he changed his name again.
Yeah, no, but it definitely, like you're saying, create a reputation for yourself. If you're changing names, people aren't going to recognize you or know you. They're going to think you're someone new, and that could be a good thing if you were toxic and you're trying to come back from that. But you still want to make sure that you do have a reputation. We always say, like, in our league, like, you can't play. Like, you shouldn't be playing with a Smurf or an alt account. You should be playing on your main account, no matter how high ranked it is. What you want to hide from people, we're not about hiding. We're about showcasing you. And if you're playing in a silver account and you're actually like Diamond 3, you're not showcasing. You're just like, destroying kids that might be a lot lower ranked than you. And what does that really show as a purpose? Because you're gonna go back on your Diamond account and no one's gonna know that silver 3 player was actually you. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop them in chat. I think we're winding up here now. We've been going for just about an hour. And so I don't want to take up too much of Laurel's time here, but I do appreciate you coming on to talk to us and talk to everyone. I really love showcasing people from Illinois, and I'm always trying to get anyone from Illinois on here, especially if they, started, and, they're young and played in high school, esports wise, like we're getting to that point where some of our graduates are possibly going to be professionals. We're talking about Drew Dozer earlier and things like that, and he's really trying to get on an academy team, and he's playing for one of the top ranked collegiate teams right now. And you never know when someone's going to go, and we have plenty of opportunities for our kids to go professional, or at least go and do something in the esports world. So
I had a former Naperville North player recognize me in another Discord.
Nice.
I posted it in a Valorant Discord looking for talent to do the podcast, and he's like, "Oh, I recognize you. I played at Naperville North." I'm like, oh boy. Okay.
Your name is out there, Keith.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Rito Buffet ADC was asking, how many hours do you play every day being a challenger player?
When I was grinding on all my accounts way back, like in 2016, I was playing so much, probably like 10 to 12 hours a day. When I had like
Oh,
4 accounts challenger, I was playing a lot. I guess I kind of still do that now with scrims when I'm in like scrim. Like right now, when I'm on my off time, I probably play like around like 3 to 6, depending on the day. But yeah, I try to like take it easy more so during this time, so I can fully like grind out like my 9+ hour days when I have to during season. But yeah.
Yeah, we always tell kids that it's important to take a break sometimes, just play a different game. Like, don't keep grinding all the time. Like, it is good to get the breath of fresh air, especially if you're in the off season. Like, just you don't have to grind every day. Take a break, play something else. Like, because the stress of just losing and being on high, energy, trying to win and grind out and climb can be too much for some kids. And I think it's important to get that balance in that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
YMZ was talking about what do you think about any of the roster changes? Anything sticks out to you from NA and EU?
I'm excited for Perks NA. I hope.
oh yeah.
That's my favorite one, I think, out of everything.
I mean,
The
the
record
sword art
one?
jump's pretty big too.
Yeah, I just want to see, because I think Perks is definitely going to change. Hopefully how like the approach of a lot of the NA players think towards the game in terms of like their practice and things like that. So I think it'll leave a good mark in NA. I'm excited for him to come over.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it definitely this year has been just such a shakeup for me. Like, I was like, I don't even know where people are going. And when I look at, we have Overwatch chat, and our Overwatch people are really good at pointing out where people are signing. And literally, Overwatch, just little whole scale teams like have completely swapped. And I'm like, at least League's not that bad. But then I look and I'm like, League's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, okay. A lot of
Yeah.
veterans dropped this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
like
good,
it's great. Like Bjergsen, Doublelift retiring. I'm really surprised about Bjergsen retiring too, especially like he's not much older than me, honestly. Like I'm 22. I think he's 24, 25. I'm just like,
Is the cutoff year for Boomer in esports
Yeah.
like 23 to 24 right now or something?
I'm just like, I thought he was at least gonna play. Like Doublelift, it made a little more sense to me, I guess. He's like 29, I think. But even then, I'm just like, I didn't see him retiring anytime soon either. I thought he was gonna at least try to like. I just want a player. I really want a player to play in their like mid-30s. I just want that to happen. In
Isn't
the,
that Xfethy?
He just turned 30, I think. I don't even know if he's playing anymore.
We're
I
gonna
haven't heard anything
find
about
out.
him. Yeah. But I think the other player that's closest to that, at least in NA, is I think Afro is the other player that's
Yeah.
on there for. I think he's like 28, 29. I just want a player. I'll be that player eventually, I guess. If no one's gonna
Just
kill
stick it
him,
out
but-
long enough and just hang it out.
But I just
What-
hope there's a player that actually plays till like they're 35 or like 34, because it happens in traditional sports, and I think I want that precedent to be set, and people stop talking about like the boomer zoomer thing, because I think if LeBron can play at peak performance in basketball at like 35 and win championships, I don't think anyone in their like 35s in league could not do that. So
I mean, a really common thing right now in Valorant is professional teams are made up of 2 to 3 CS boomers, which is what they call them, and then 2 to 3 Gen Z. I'm here to just frag. That's it, and that's what 100 Thieves is. That's what Immortals is. That's what Dig is. That's all these major teams are just 3 boomers, 2 zoomers. Let's go have at it. and one of them, 100 Thieves, was at us, and I posted on Twitter. He's like, with the direct quote, "I will protect my boomers." That's why I entry frag. And I'm like, but he goes like 29, man. Can't do him like this.
that's yeah.
I had a question that just popped in as you were talking about Afro. Like, how much do you, when you're playing on Academy, how much do you guys, like, do you guys feel like the little stepchild that doesn't get attention when you're playing Academy compared to the main roster? Or do you guys actually, split time and actually work together?
Yeah, there's a lot of integration last year for Dig. Like we're like sharing time in scrims, like swapping back and forth. Like, so it was nice for at least Dig. I can't speak for a lot of other teams, but at least for Dig last year, we definitely, I got moved to LCS a few times, got to play LCS games, and we did get to share time and just compete for them. So with COVID though, we were playing from home at the latter half of it, like in summer. So when we were in the office more so, and like around like spring, like the first like 3 months or so, yeah, we did interact with them like more so in person too, and like did more stuff like that. But COVID's kind of been ruining everything. Sucks, but
Are you
Yeah,
guys for this season? Are you guys going back to the base, or Is it the plan?
I think we'll probably go to the office to play scrims. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's still being decided, especially with I think there's like a spike with COVID cases in LA too recently.
Yeah.
So it depends on how all that pans out. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to go play in the office and just have things go back to normal. But
LAN environments are so much different.
Yeah, it's definitely a tall task.
We got our computer lab last year, and like the light switch of playing on LAN versus online is so different. And I wish I could go back there. I was in there for all of 2 days. We got shut down again.
Yeah, no, it sucks. Yeah, no, it definitely feels much better. Like, because I'm basically doing everything. If I'm like streaming, I'm doing it from my room. Then I'll be scrimming from my room, and then I'll be like, everything will be from my room. Like
just
I wake
locked
up
in your room.
Yeah,
hey.
like I'll be playing solo queue in my room. Like,
welcome to teachers, because we're planning in front of our desk. We're teaching in front of here, and then we got to grade papers after school with it. It's like, man, my day is like, I don't want to look at this computer, and if I do, I don't actually want to be thinking about anything. Let me just watch someone stream for right now.
No, that's when I play jungle. You just go off of feeling, they might be there.
No, it's awesome to hear that there is a lot more interaction, or at least there was before COVID happened. With I think that's the way orgs should be, because the academy team literally can hot swap in and out for LCS team, and that's awesome that they, you have the opportunity to play with them, especially to hear from them, to hopefully allow you to grow into an LCS player, because obviously they're the better than you, but be able to communicate and talk to them. Is there that rivalry between you and the other top laner, the LCS top laner, or are you guys more friends and talking back and forth about strategy?
I think there's always gonna be like the healthy rivalry, I think, overall. But I think just staying friendly is important too, and just being able to bounce ideas and just being able to grow together as well is important, because if you're able to just talk at a high level with someone else that understands the game as much as you do, it's just going to improve yourself too. So just using someone else's knowledge and your own knowledge and just like creating just the best possible outcome is, I think, important.
Yeah, that's the one thing I really enjoy, because besides I usually, like I was telling you earlier, I'd usually watch your streams until you started streaming later and later. But I would always like try to catch Afro streams, because for a while he wasn't being memey. He was actually like learning and talking about what's going on and his decisions. And lately his streams have been a little more memey and or completely chill. And it's like, I miss like, way back in the day, old Night Blue, when he actually used to talk about how to do jungle and things like that. Like before he was the meme star supreme. Just because
it's really nice to have like informative streamers out there though, like, and not a lot of those are really around anymore.
Yeah, they're not, because obviously that doesn't sell as much. I don't know whether it's because of content of League or whatever. People just enjoy that person who's trying to be funny or trying to make that clip for YouTube type stuff, rather than actually teaching the game. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing out on. Like the most informative set of streams I ever watched was when Night Blue did, he was playing Flex Q and he was doing like bronze to challenge or whatever with like a team, like full 5 team. And he had to literally explain out every role, and this is what you have to do and play one champion. And this is like, yeah, these are exactly what the things I'm trying to teach my kids. And he's doing with these just random people from across the world, trying to do it. And I was like, wow, I actually learned so much. Let me go take that and show my kids that. So this was not recent. This was like 5 years ago when Night Blue was relevant.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
well, we probably shouldn't hold you too much longer here.
Yeah. Definitely want to thank you for being here. It was a pleasure having you. Again, long time in the making. Just super happy to have you on and have a professional on here to talk. We've been having some really good guests lately, and I'm just, I'm hoping we're just going to keep on going up. So if you know anyone else that wants to talk to some high schoolers, definitely send them our way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for having me on. Appreciate it.
You.
Thanks so much, man.
All right, guys. With that being said, if you guys want to follow Lorlo, his Twitter is on there. I believe Twitch/Lorlo, right? You're just playing Lorlo?
Yeah, just Lorlo. Perfect.
And usually he streams late for all you kids. So as you're posting in our channel at 3 a.m, like you are when I have to yell at you, he's probably still streaming. So go ahead and check out his stream. It's pretty good. It's fairly PG most of the time. So especially if you play top lane, you'll definitely learn something watching him.
Top lane is a PG place.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
No problem. Thank you guys. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you around next week.